Okay, it's not silent and chill anymore.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Okay. I don't see anything though. There he is. Oh hi. Hello there. Thanks for clicking on this video. I'm FlowMikeAwesome and we're playing Dagon today, a visual novel based on the Lovecraft story by the name of Dagon. Let me put on something more comfortable for this occasion. Right, that's better. I made this when I was on 4546B, and since this is a bit of a fishy adventure, I thought this would be the best thing to wear probably. So, let's just get right into it, shall we? Dagon is a faithful, interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. Yeah, I guess I can do that. I guess I can progress through locations with the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Okay, that's already a major spoiler to the end of the story, I guess. And I can look at things. During the game you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look at the Elder Sign. Oh yes, secrets! What do we have here? Lovecraft's letters. As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly as easily and as rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversation, as my condition of nervous prostration becomes more and more acute. I cannot bear to talk much now, and am becoming as silent as the spectator himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper. H.P. Lovecraft to Reinhard Kleiner, December 23rd, 1917. Yeah, I don't know what loquacity means. Don't think I've ever heard that word. Lovecraft generally has a thing for using big words that I can't pronounce some of the time. It is also kinda hard to read, but I'll try to do my best. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to his friends and fans, out of which about 10% survive to this day, but his tendency to endless correspondence was a relatively late growth. In youth, I scarcely did any letter writing, thanking anybody for a present was as much of an ordeal that I would rather have written a 250-line pastoral or a 20-page treatise on the rings of Saturn. Selected letters 1929 to 1931, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft would often skip meals to afford postage. Collections of his correspondence have been published in various books, and selected letters can be found online. Some readers consider them his most important legacy. Ah, the more you know. Yes, please show me these. What is
Penniless,
this?
and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
No, don't do it! There must be a different way.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
What a very well-timed thunder.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Don't do the die. Don't do it. Oh, what is this? Morphine. Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War from 1861 to 1865 and World War I from 1914 to 1918. It was also sold without restriction until 1914. That must have been wild times back then. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Sertürner, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. Okay, yeah, don't do drugs, kids.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Oh no, not the Germans. Ah. Lovecraft and the Great War. Dagon was written around a month after the United States entered World War I. Lovecraft was actively interested in its course. He composed many poems in which he gave encouragement to soldiers and commented on the events unfolding in Europe. He tried to enlist in the army, which he mentions in one of the letters to Reinhard Kleiner. Some time ago, impressed by my entire uselessness in the world, I resolved to attempt enlistment despite my almost invalid condition. I argued that if I chose a regiment soon to depart from France, my sheer nervous force, which is not inconsiderable, might sustain me till a bullet or piece of shrapnel could more conclusive and effectively dispose of me. Letters to Reinhard Kleiner, H.P. Lovecraft. But even though he passed the physical exam, his mother prevented him from going to the war. She is threatened to go to any lengths, legal or otherwise, if I do not reveal all the illness which unfit me for the army. I am Providence, the life and times of H.P. Lovecraft. S.T. Yoshi. Or the guided Yoshi. Oh no, please don't kill me! Did I get shot?
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
Okay.
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Sounds pretty good. Also, the ocean looks really peaceful from here. Looks very, very calm and calming. It's gonna change at some point, I'm pretty sure. Oh hey. The Huns. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids, who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans, in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on 27th of July 1900 before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the law and custom of the war, adopted during the first Taegu Convention of 1899. Taegu? Hague. Spelled Hague. I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce it. But they made some laws and customs of war with that convention in 1899, so I guess that's cool. Anyway, let's get that little buyboat and head out.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
That's good. That's pretty good. Right, I'm just gonna take these.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of
Never
water.
a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Yes, that I would totally have guessed that, I guess. What was that noise? The ocean is scarier when you're in a small boat. It's not that bad on a big boat, but as soon as you're on a small boat with just one rudder, it is kind of, you know, kind of uncomfortable.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Yeah, I diddly don't see anything that is correct. Okay, guess we just continue then.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
I do feel like there is birds around though. So technically if you hear birds, if you hear like seagulls, that should mean there is like coast somewhere. Usually seagulls are near the coast, I'm pretty sure. Right, got a thing here. The Return to Short Stories. Dagon was written in July 1917 and first published in 1919 in The Vagrant, an amateur magazine focused on the supernatural. The story is the first of his stories that introduced an element from the Cthulhu Mythos. Dagon itself, a pagan cult worshipping Dagon, later appears in The Shadow over Innsmouth, one of Lovecraft's most popular works. 1917 is also the year when he wrote The Tomb, a short story about Jervis Dudley, a daydreamer who discovers a mysterious mausoleum in the woods by his house and becomes obsessed with it. These two works marked Lovecraft's return to short story writing after he burned most of his attempts at the genre 9 years prior and decided to concentrate on poetry. Lovecraft stated that it was his friend William Paul Cook, a literary publisher and critic, who convinced him to start writing weird fiction again. Yeah, that was a very good call, William Paul Cook. I guess you're a very important person in Lovecraft's life. Thank you for that. Right. Where else do we go?
Neither
Oh, hi.
ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Yeah, there is very much blue here. Also, I can't help but staring in the sun. I'm pretty sure that's not healthy.
The change happened whilst I slept.
Change, you say?
Its details I shall never know,
Okay, sounds interesting.
for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Okay, dream infested doesn't sound very pleasant, I gotta say. What's going on here? Oh, hi! Hello there! What are you all doing here? How did you get here? Is that a squid? Is that a squid? Is that an ammonite? Is that a parasect? I'm not sure. These are like the weirdest Pokemon I've ever seen in my entire life.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
Yeah, there's not much going on here as far as I can see.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
Some distance. That's like a few meters. Is a few meters some distance. Also, is there spider webs on there? How did those get here?
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
It is quite the scenery, that is true. I'm not sure how these squid creatures manage to have the tentacles in the air. Also, some of them have like crab feet, which is weird. But I mean,
For there
sure.
was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
It is very chilling, yes. Also probably kinda
The
smelly.
region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
It is kind of hard to describe, that is true.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity.
Yeah, I guess I also pass.
There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
Yes. It is all very unpleasant, I dare say.
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Yes, it is very weird that there's a sun that has already risen, but you can still see stars in the sky. I should maybe also mention, if anybody listens to this as a podcast, because I will release it as a podcast, there's also a video where you can look at all this stuff. There's lots of stuff to be seen here. I don't even know what that is. Is that teeth? I don't know, man.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
What would that theory be? Is it Nightmare Land? Are we in a Lovecraftian dreamland story?
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
Okay, sure. I guess that could also be an explanation. What are these spider webs?
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
Is there ocean, though?
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
I can't see any ocean, and I can't see or hear any birds. I do, however, see tentacles right above the boat that I'm sheltering in. Okay. Oh hey, there's a thing. The mystery of volcanic islands. Volcanic eruptions sometimes result in the creation of islands. Most of them are transient and erode after some time, but some prove permanent. The floating pumice? Well, it is porous rock created when superheated pressured rock is ejected from a volcano, can move across long distances, and transport barnacles and macroalgae that cling to it. In 2001, rafts of humus created during the eruption of a volcano near Tonga, Polynesia, eventually reached Straya. That's interesting. Okay. Anything else here? No. Okay. Well, I'm just...
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Shade is okay, I guess.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
Okay, cool. Does it mean I can walk
now? That night
now?
I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
That sounds good. Finding the sea and rescue sounds pretty good. What is being reflected here? It is weird. Okay. Okay then. What do I... Oh, there we go. That's a lot of stuff to take with me, I think. Let's see.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
That's good.
The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Yes, let's go for an unknown goal. Let's do it.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Okay, I guess that's this mountain right here. Is what you're talking about. Also, what are those things? I feel like those things should maybe be explained. But I guess they don't. Okay, let's just go on then. Just like these things should maybe be explained. Well, that's a whale. Pretty sure that's just a regular old whale. But that is like pretty big crabs that also have squiddy parts. I'm not too sure on what that is supposed to be. But I guess nobody's gonna tell me. Okay, let's just move.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Does look very much closer, though. Also, what is this? Is this one creature? Or is this many creatures? It is certainly disgusting. Kinda looks like a big-ass worm. Maybe several big-ass worms. I think it's dried, though. So probably can't hurt me. What do we have here? The horrors of the ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu Mythos and the fictional underwater city of Rillia was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable or uninhabitable. One of those is probably correct. Probably the one that it says here and not the one I think it is, but still. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Mariana snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet below the ocean's surface, in never-ending darkness, and the hellishly crushing pressure hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. It's a lot of pressure. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth, or the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some irony in this. Yeah, some creatures that live down in the ocean, they are scary as fuck, man. I have seen some shit, but that shit, that is some real shit. What's going on over here?
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
That's not good. And just climb up, and just
An
climb it.
intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface.
Yes, that's what mountains are, I'm pretty sure.
Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Okay, why not? Let's hope the giant murder worm doesn't come for us.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night.
I do wonder.
But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably, yes.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again.
And don't do it. 9-10, never sleep again.
And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day.
Why? Is it because it's less scary at night because you can't see so many things? The sky is beautiful, though.
Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
That probably is also a thing, yes.
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Okay, let's go to the crest of the eminence then. There's an elder sign though, so what knowledge do you have? The Loner. Contrary to popular opinion, Lovecraft was not an ever-frowning, eccentric, grumpy loner. He considered himself to be a person who appreciated humor. Moreover, he would often meet with friends in his apartment or at various cafes in Brooklyn and Manhattan. At times, his social life was so intensive, his work would suffer for months. There was a point when he finally decided he needed to put an end to daily meetings and loitering in New York cafeterias, and resorted to hiding at home and reading with the main room light turned off. Pretending he wasn't there whenever a friend knocked on his door. He also had another method of deterring his guests, which involved greeting them in a bathrobe with an unmade bed visible in the background and piles of papers scattered across the floor. I mean, Lovecraft did a thing for the unnamed and unnameable, but I think having an unnamed damsel in his bed visible in the background, that would have been a bit too much for him. Don't think he was that much of an outgoing, humor-loving person. Anyway, let's get our stuff. Let's move it.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
Was it though?
But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon.
Okay, looks very... I mean, it sounds very pit-like or canyon-like.
whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
It's a very beautiful night sky, though, I gotta say. Does look really good.
I felt myself on the edge of the world.
The edge of the world, where we find the circumference.
Peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night.
Does look pretty dark.
Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost.
Ah, yes, good old Paradise Lost.
And of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
I should maybe read Paradise Lost at some point. It sounds like an interesting book.
As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Are they not?
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
It does look climbable, actually, that is true.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Yes, very, very gradual declivity, that is, I agree. Well, let's go down there then.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath.
That sounds very gentle.
Gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated.
It is kinda dark, but I think there's something like a monolith here. Looks very much like a carved thing.
All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
Yeah, that thing that just got illuminated by what I think might be the moon, but maybe also not.
An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Oh, it is the moon. It is kind of a weird angle, but still. Okay then, let's inspect this a little closer.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
Does look very much like a carved piece of stone, though. Doesn't look very, very natural.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what I said. Just with, not even with more words, just more complicated. With bigger words.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Yeah, I guess I won't try then. Can I go closer?
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young.
Probably pretty old, that is true.
Whose massive bulk had known the workmanship, and perhaps the worship, of living and thinking creatures.
Yes, it is, yes.
Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Okay, sure. What is... There's nothing in my surroundings. Or is there? No, there's nothing here. I'm just gonna go closer, I guess. It was a scary sound. Right, I'm here now.
Now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm. And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope.
Okay. Doesn't look like it's wrapping my feet, but still.
Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith.
Ah, yes. The Cyclopean monolith.
On whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Yes. All of those. Can I look at those? I can look at those.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
It is a very cute squid. I like that squid.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world.
Okay, I think I know some of these things though. Like, that thing over there, that is a fish that exists. And that thing in the middle, that is more or less Dagon, I think. It looks like a jellyfish. But these two, I don't really have any idea.
But whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
Did you? Did I? Did we? Oh, is that the weird squid crab creature? Squid tentacle crab creature? And this is also a creature, probably. Also looks like it has like appendages, squid-like appendages.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
There's a pictorial carving. Is that you? Oh hey, you have knowledge. Storytelling methods. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness and the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, The Shadow Out of Time, The Hunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, The Call of Cthulhu, fictional being and deities based on real events and mythologies, Me-Go and In the Whisper of Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu Mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending. Pretty sure the ending was spoiled in the beginning, but sure, if you insist, let's not talk about it then.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré.
Yes, I don't know what a doré is. It sounds like they would be excited about this.
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
A certain sort of men.
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto.
It's like mermaid men. Interesting. They do have weird, like, tail fin situations going on. Like, those have 2 and that one even has 3. But still, looks a lot like mermaids.
Or paying homage at some monolithic shrine, which appeared to be under the waves as well.
Ah.
Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have too much detail in the first place, so it is kind of hard to talk about it, I guess.
For the mere remembrance makes me grow faint.
Sure.
Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Yes, the legendary Bulwer.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips.
That guy doesn't have lips at all. Kinda looks a bit like what I think Cthulhu looks like, because it has like appendages and stuff. It does look a lot like Cthulhu. This one looks like Pinhead, without pins in his head. That one just looks like an egg. And I don't even know. Like, the scream before he started screaming. Weird.
Glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall.
Less pleasant to recall.
Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background.
Yeah, I mean, that Cthulhu is chiseled kinda badly.
For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Ah. It is very much a mermaid man.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size.
Oh, no. No. Just whale size.
But in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe.
It would be an explanation. Yes. It's just a carving in a rock.
Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Ah, yes, the Piltdown Man. I have a feeling... Yes, we're gonna learn something about the Piltdown Man. Lovecraft would often use the latest scientific discoveries as inspiration for his work. He would even update his stories at the last moment in order to make sure they reflected the latest breakthroughs. Unfortunately, this method was not without its flaws. After Lovecraft's death, A Piltdown Man discovery mentioned in Dagon turned out to be a paleoanthropological fraud. In 1912, Charles Dawson, an amateur archaeologist, announced that he had discovered the missing link between ape and men. The fossilized remains of a previously unknown early human. Years later, they turned out to be a forgery, but by that point, the fraud had already managed to negatively affect the early research on human evolution. In the year when the discovery took place, the majority of the scientific community believed Dawson indeed found the missing link. In 1953, Time magazine published evidence proving that Dawson was a con man. It turned out that the fossil of the previously unknown early human consisted of a human skull, jaws of an orangutan, and chimpanzee teeth. That's interesting. Okay, I wonder how we put those together.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me.
Okay, yeah, this is definitely the moon. There's the moon. That work? It is very, very silent, though looks very chill.
Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Okay, it's not silent and chill anymore.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Okay. I don't see anything though. There he is. Hi.
It darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith.
Okay. That is a pretty big guy. That's a pretty big fella.
About which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Okay.
I think I went mad then.
I think it didn't notice us.
Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Okay. Let's go home then, I guess. Probably.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like you had fun on your way back home.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat.
Yes, I'm back at my boat and it's also raining.
At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
The horror. What's going on here? Ah. Okay. What happened?
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital.
Oh, land. I know this place called San Francisco. I have heard of that before.
Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
That was pretty nice of you, American ship.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention.
I wonder what that could have been.
Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing.
Okay. That just disappeared,
Nor did
probably.
I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
What would that thing be? It all sounded very believable. It also looked very believable. There was totally nothing there where I wouldn't be like, yes, that's definitely a thing that exists. Okay. What is this? The journalist. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was skilled. I really wish I could read. It would be all very much easier if I could read. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticism to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the Conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is, or ever can be, above warfare until the basic impulse of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. Yeah, I would probably rephrase this as there's always some cowardly, poor country that is like, this country is stuff that I want. Probably it's also a poor country, but you know, we need this stuff because we're poorer. We're also assholes, so we're just gonna go over there and we'll try to take it. We're gonna make it in 3 days, but like a year later, they still didn't get what they want because they suck. That's what poor asshole countries do. So yeah, it is probably best to have weapons for defense. But yeah, you should probably not abolish all your weapons, maybe just some of your weapons, but you still need to be able to defend yourself in case some bullshit asshole shithole country is like, we're gonna attack you now. That's not cool, man. That's absolutely not cool. What else do we have here? That a thing? In Defense of Dagon. In 1921, Lovecraft released a series of 3 essays: The Defense Reopens, The Defense Remains Open, and Final Words, later published as a collection titled In Defense of Dagon, in which he rebuked a series of criticism directed at his works. Some notable quotes: "I paint what I dream, and will let the public settle the rest amongst themselves." Mr. Monday asks the raison d'etre of Dagon. I will give it, purely and simply to reproduce a mood. Its object is the simplest in all art: portrayal. I still don't know what that's supposed to mean. The physical horrors of war, no matter how extreme and unprecedented, hardly have a bearing on an entirely different realm of supernatural terror. Ghosts are still ghosts. The mind can get more thrills from unrealities than from realities. In the essays, Lovecraft touches upon the topics of atheism, materialism, the quest for truth, and the love of science. Truth! I don't think, yes, there's one more here. The Atheist. Lovecraft considered himself an atheist and absolute materialist, which he attributed partially to his early childhood interest in astronomy and science in general. In his own words, "I am indeed an absolute materialist so far as actual belief goes, with not a shred of credence in any form of supernaturalism, religion, spiritualism, transcendentalism, or immortality." Why, Lovecraft, why? why would you even? All I say is that I think it is damned unlikely that anything like a central cosmic will, a spirit world, or an eternal survival of personality exists. They are the most preposterous and unjustified of all the guesses which can be made about the universe, and I am not enough of a hair-splitter to pretend that I don't regard them as errant and negligible moonshine. In theory, I'm an agnostic, but pending the appearance of a radical evidence, I must be classed, practically and provisionally, as an atheist. Lovecraft certainly did know words. Sources Against Religion, The Atheist Writing of H.P. Lovecraft by H.P. Lovecraft. Mythos, The The Myths and Tales of H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard by H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard. Who would have thunken? Right, what else is there to see here?
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon,
The fish god. Okay. Who that be? Dagon, or Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Ekhet, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warden in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag or dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Okay, that's cool. Nothing else here. Okay, what's over here?
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Okay, the Necronomicon. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's work after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic, to the Cthulhu Mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noticing that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu Mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Okay, what is this? The Marketer. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodworks.
Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural units and the cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture, such as bookcases, dressers, buffets, and cupboards. Every model is conceived and created with the purest art, ripest scholarship, and mellowest craftsmanship which energetic enterprise can command, and made to conform rigidly to the architecture of each particular type of home. The cost, considering the quality, is amazingly low, and the trademark on the individual piece prevents any substitution by careless contractors.
Source: Lovecraft Studies, Volume 7, Number 1, H.P. Lovecraft, S.T. Joshi. Yeah, I'm not sure about commercials back in the day, but that kind of sounds pretty shit. Anyway, nothing else to see here. Okay, and then I think we need to go over there. What is this? What is there? You have nothing to say? Hello there, fair maiden. Ah. A scientist. These days the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time Dagon was published it was subject to a wide debate. After the author used it in the story, critics pointed out that men of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted in defense of Dagon, that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he would indeed use the phrase they suggested. Scientists was coined as an analogy. I'm just gonna go with analogy. As an analogy to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet, in the 19th and early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain and the United States were of the opinion that men of science, resembling the term men of letters, was the only proper choice. Amongst other things, it was gender-specific, indicating that science was an endeavor to be pursued by only one sex. The term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and men of science started fading into obscurity as an old-fashioned synonym. Interesting. More you know, I guess. Alright, so there's nothing else to see or do here. Let's leave. Although this is a really nice office, I do like the carpentry. Let's go.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Not the thing!
I tried morphine,
Ah, no thunder this time? Okay.
but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave.
Yeah, that is what morphine does. So I have been told.
So now, I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Sounds good, I guess. Sounds pretty good. Oh, stuff. Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12. Way back when times, man. Way back when times. In order to look and feel like an adult, in his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. Yes, tobacco is only for short pants wearers. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated 13th February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor, and I never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition. The prohibition of any one anti-social force, as well as of any other. Source: The Spirit of Revision. Lovecraft's Letters to Zelia Brown. Reed Bishop, H.P. Lovecraft, Sean Breeny, and Andrew Lemon. S.T. Yoshi. Pretty sure that S.T. Yoshi means something. Probably a person, I don't know.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm.
Well, maybe.
A mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat, after my escape from the German man-of-war.
There was an awful lot of sun. That is definitely true.
This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply.
Ah, what would that be? What is that hideously vivid vision you're talking about, good sir?
I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed.
Yeah, there's a lot more stuff in the ocean than we know about. Especially plastic. Lots of plastic in the ocean.
Worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite.
Okay.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind.
That was a pretty big
of a
boy.
day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Hey, there's more of them big boys. An almost uncountable amount. I could probably count them, but I don't want to. Looks like they're attacking France. Why would that be a thing? Ah. Guess we'll never know.
The end is near.
Is it? Ah. Somebody's knocking at my door. Who might that be, I ask you? Tell me truly, I implore.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Sir, said I, O madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. What is that?
It shall not find me.
Well, I mean, it kinda already found you. Ah. Door just opened. There's a hand.
God, that hand!
Looks more like a claw than a hand, I would say, but it is probably best to leave. Yes?
The window! The window!
Right, I'm taking the window out. See ya! Well, I guess that was it. That didn't sound too pleasant. But yeah, that was the story of Dagon. I hope you all enjoyed it. I do also have another video just like this, which is about a little glass bottle. A story that H.P. Lovecraft wrote when he was 7 years old. I'm just gonna put that, like, right here. Also, I think we didn't do 100%. I think we missed some stuff. Anyway, make sure to watch the little glass bottle, and there's also gonna be another video here that YouTube thinks you will probably like, so why not watch both of those at the same time to give me some sweet, sweet watch time. Would be very cool of you. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Have a good, whatever. Bye!